welcome to Winning Hand, the podcast about Marvel Champions, one card at a time. My name is Boomguy. I am your host on this journey through Marvel Champions, and I am joined today by Lethus.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Lethus? How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm excited about today's card.
Okay, all right. And Lazy Titan, how you doing?
What's up, y'all?
How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, I was just hitting a bit of a yawn while you were introing, so
okay.
I'm just a little out of it. It was a mad yawn, so
I'm glad that
intros are boring.
Yeah, I'm
only
boring
when Boomguy does them. So,
ooh, it's a rough review. Okay, today is our first episode in the celebration of Women's History Month, which, as you may know, listener, has its origins in 1981. But between 1988 and 1994, Congress in the United States passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim March of each year as Women's History Month. Since 1995, presidents have issued a series of annual proclamations designating the month of March as Women's History Month. These proclamations celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and recognize the specific achievements women have made over the course of American history in a variety of fields, including, but not limited to, kicking ass and taking names. And that is what today's heroine does in spades, as we will find out later. But before we get to that, I want to do our kind of episode, well, it's not a tradition really, but we've been doing it for a while now. We do a content creator recommendation, or we feature a content creator each time. Please remember, if you are a content creator and would like us to shout you out here for whatever that's worth, I'm happy to. Please send me a message, winninghandpodcast@gmail.com, or hit me on Discord or anywhere else you can find me. Or if you think someone else is a cool content creator that we may not have heard of, someone smaller, let me know. Anyway, today's content creator goes by the name Astrodar on Discord, and he has a blog called The Alter Ego Chronicle. It is a written format, so those of you who like to read about cards, like to read about Marvel Champions, there's not a ton out there for you, but Astrodar is one of the ones who is really doing it right. He has a whole series that he's been doing recently called Hero Refresher, where at the end of 2024, he put out a call for people to give him deck recommendations, and he resolved, before the end of the year, in the month of March, or the month of December, I believe, to play every single hero with a deck that someone recommended. And he just took the first deck anyone recommended of a certain hero, put it on a list and a spreadsheet, and started playing them. He played through all of them, and now he is writing up a whole series about his experience with each deck, what he thought about it, how it was, etc. It has been a ton of fun. I've been reading along as he posts those once a week or so. They've been a great read. A bunch of those heroes I have not played in a while, so it's fun to see it through his eyes as well. Astrodar was also a guest on the show back in episode 36, I want to say, for Starhawk, and then again in 43 for Clear the Area, I think. I think those are the two, but audience, I'm sure, will correct me on the numbers, but he was on those two, Starhawk and Clear the Area, back in the day. So, friend of the show. He also has a series called The Team Manager, which is, I'll let you discover it yourself, but that's a fun one. And then he does articles to kind of help old and new players rediscover certain aspects of the game, or kind of teach about a certain type of game. He has an article that I remember titled The Wonderful Thing About Triggers, and Triggers Are a Wonderful Thing, all about timing triggers in Marvel Champions. So worth a read. He writes really well, so check him out, The Alter Ego Chronicle. I will leave a comment, or rather, I'll leave a link down below in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, so you can check him out. Please let him know Boomguy sent you, and he will probably brush you off. But just kidding. Friend of the show, Astrodar, there you are. Check him out.
what a guy.
Okay, so
kind.
Let us transition then into the card of the day. But before we get to the card of the day, our good friend and member of the show, Lethus, is going to give us some character background on Mockingbird. Please, Lethus.
All right, so to start, we're going to do a trivia version of Boomguy Doesn't Read Comics, because I think it's important to do this before we talk about the real things. Boomguy is going to give some accurate but completely ridiculous answers. Accurate has an asterisk by it, to be clear. So
Okay.
we'll start with a very simple question for you. What team affiliations has Mockingbird had? Oh,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
he's coming up with nothing. Okay, there we
S.H.I.E.L.D.
go. There's one.
And, how many are there?
There's 3 or 4. They're not that
Okay.
complicated.
Avengers.
I mean, I only expect you to get 2. Yeah, we go. Okay. And if you get like anything else that's like super bonus points, then I will be very proud of you.
Defenders.
No. Okay, close enough. Good enough. You got 2. West Coast Avengers, which is kind of its own thing, but not really.
Yeah.
She was a founding member of West Coast Avengers. And then Genius in Action Research Labs, otherwise known as GIRL. You may remember that from
That
Nadia
was-
Van Dyne's Alter
That
Ego.
was not happening.
I didn't think so. But, you were actually accurate so far. You didn't say, like, Guardians or Ecstatics or... I'm not going to get into that one.
Arguably, still wrong. He said Defenders. Saying Guardians is in fact the same amount of wrong. And
That's
that
fair.
Neither one is true. So
That's fair. Which superhero genius designed her winged costume?
Oh, the Wasp.
No. Any second guess? I'll give you 2.
Tony Stark.
Good second guess, but no, you're wrong. It's Peter Parker. Peter Parker actually gave her the winged suit, which I didn't know until I was researching it for this show. Like, I was wondering where that suit had came from because I'd never seen it before.
you tricked us. You told us about how Wasp was the science thing on her team, and then
You
said
did.
that she didn't invent it.
You led
That's
me
why the
astray.
questions are ordered this way.
All right.
To make you wrong, to
What
bring
else you
you
got?
joy. What field of science does Mockingbird study? Because she doesn't
field
just
of
kick ass.
science?
Mm-hmm.
She studies quite clearly aerodynamics. She is very interested in propulsion systems, physics, airflow, all that kind of
Propulsion
stuff,
systems? Does
Stuff that
propulsion
makes you
systems
fly.
count?
Sure.
No. Lazy Titan, do you want to jump in and correct it?
Anthropology.
Did you say ecology?
It's clear. Anthropology.
Oh, anthropology. Basically the same.
Biology. She's a biologist.
Oh,
I was actually pretty close.
I mean, I'm the one who said
Closer.
ecology.
Closer. You did say ecology, but anthropology closer, I would argue, than propulsion systems. But
I mean, it's sure.
both about living things.
This
kinda,
isn't
maybe?
Boomguy
Anthropology
versus
is-
Lazy Titan, is it?
I mean, it could be.
It is now.
Why not?
Should be.
Is Mockingbird in the MCU? And if so, where?
Is she in the MCU?
I think I'm gonna say yes.
I bet.
I have.
Okay, here's what my bet. I
Okay.
bet she's in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and I bet that is technically canon. So, yes, but I would argue that is not really MCU.
I'm gonna say yes. Endgame, just because my odds are better.
Everybody was in that one.
Just like
In the
just
background
everybody's
somewhere.
in Endgame. So
pretty
she's-
sure I was
if
in
you go frame by frame through the entire Endgame, I bet she's in there somewhere. So
So I think in an interesting way, you're both right, actually. So the character Bobby Morse, Mockingbird, was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. seasons 2 and 3
There you go.
primarily, I
there
think.
you go.
She is, of course, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But the comics character is also known as Agent 19 in S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point, which was a role they gave to Laura Barton in the movies, Clint's wife.
Doesn't count. That's
so
cheating.
They sort of split her role
Clearly
between
not
the two
her.
characters. I mean, it's not her.
She's
Let
in
me just
Endgame.
reference
Don't
the
lie to
card
me.
real quick. It says Mockingbird. Laura Barton? Nope, it does not.
Not today.
It's I'm still probably in Endgame, so I'm probably still right. Just saying.
What is her favorite car?
Favorite car?
It's the one Hawkeye drives. It's a Mustang or something. I don't know what cars. I don't know what cars.
It is the one he drives. It's the red convertible. Yes, the one featured on the Clint Barton alter ego. No, you got that one. You can have that one.
Okay.
I think
love
you
it.
get a point.
I didn't know this was a car knowledge show.
I
You're
mean,
just a Renaissance man.
Mustang, I'm going to let go.
I'm
And then
cooked.
last one, what, if any, powers does Mockingbird have?
She can
She
fly.
has no powers at all.
The
she's
trick is that
powerless.
she doesn't need the wings to fly. She can fly without wings. She has
She's
flight. She just
self-propelled
wears
flight.
wings. They're decorative.
Yeah. I actually thought she didn't have powers. Turns out she kind of does.
Oh, it's gonna be one of those.
She basically has like the same kind of thing like Captain America does. She got injected with like a super soldier serum crossed with a thing called the Infinity Formula, which Nick Fury got, which like basically stops aging. So she's kind of like an unaging Captain America now, which I
She's
did
a super
not know.
soldier?
Also, looking at the official Marvel page, it says she has latent psychic powers. I'm like, I don't even know what that means or how that's been presented. That means nothing to me.
I feel
that
like
was on the
everybody's
official Marvel
got a
page.
super soldier serum, right? I feel like Captain America, like, why is he special anymore? Everybody's got
famously,
that.
Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson, but like Bucky's got it and the arm. Mockingbird's got it and can fly. Like
She
what?
can't
what?
fly. She can glide. But,
Okay, she
you know.
can't even fly. But like, why does everybody got the serum? Okay, like
Let's
give
not
Cap
get
some-
started on super soldier serum
Because he got
because
the shield.
Boomguy has some takes about the new Captain America movie. So let's not get started.
Ooh. We can talk about that later. All right. Yeah, that's it for that. So you did. I think you did pretty well overall.
It's
I
all
think
right.
you actually got like, I'm gonna say 50% on a thing where I didn't expect you to get like 25. So like,
Okay.
kudos, well done.
Thanks. So here's a question for you before you go on to the rest of your actual story. What is the difference between the West Coast Avengers and the East Coast Avengers, and why are they beefing? It's a whole
I
East
can't
Coast, West
remember
Coast thing.
Why they made the West Coast Avengers? It was actually meant to be like kind of a splinter group. It wasn't that they were kicked out or anything. But Hawkeye and Mockingbird, just went to the West Coast and were
the
going to
artists
the
were sick
Avengers
of drawing
there.
New York, is what it was. They were sick of drawing the Empire State Building. They didn't want to do it anymore, so they were like, "All right, let's go to San
Need
Francisco."
more Venice Beach.
Yes, we need more beaches and fewer high rises because it's getting obnoxious.
I love the Kate Bishop Hawkeye series at Venice Beach. It's really good. All right,
This is
so,
before Biggie and Pac. This is like the original East Coast, West Coast beef.
I think this might be sort of a derivative of Biggie and Pac. This is after.
No, before. No way.
derivative.
This is before. This is like 1960s.
gotta be. Like 80s,
So,
right?
There's going to be, I'm going to gloss over some of the original like background history of the character.
All right.
Because when I was researching this, I quickly found it to be depressing in the way lots of old like female comic book characters are depressing, where there's just lots of stupid storylines and ridiculous things. And I just don't want to live there right now. But I'm going to talk about some of the history and then talk about the cooler stuff about her. So she first appeared in Astonishing Tales, issue number 6 in 1971 as a supporting character for Khazar, who I have never heard of outside of Marvel Snap. He's basically like a Tarzan-looking guy. I think he has a mansion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't make
He's
any
got
sense.
a tiger. I played Marvel Snap for a bit.
He's got a
he has
tiger.
a tiger named Zabu. And in that arc, she's established as a biologist and a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and basically just supports him. Then that ended a few issues later. Then she pops up again in 1976 for like a single issue of something, then disappears for 4 years, then comes back where she's investigating S.H.I.E.L.D. She had been called Huntress at first, and when she came back in 1980, the name changed to Mockingbird because a certain comic book
DC
company
have
that
Huntress?
is not Marvel made a Huntress character.
Okay.
So they wanted to distinguish her. So she dropped the Huntress name, became Mockingbird, appeared in a miniseries with Hawkeye in 1983. They got married, formed the West Coast Avengers. And then some absolutely bonkers crap happens with Kang, and she gets sent to the Old West and given an Indian love potion and temporarily forgets her old life. And I kind of stopped at this point. Like, this is awful and terrible, and bad
Feels a
things
little out of
happen. Yep. I'm just going to just gonna skip all this. I don't care.
Goes
It's
to
not
the
cool.
Old West and catches
Um,
racism
Yes.
and measles, probably.
She came back in Secret Invasion, actually, after supposedly dying in the 90s. I don't know why she's back. There's a Skrull that came back impersonating her, and then it turns out she's actually still alive, and she's in space. Normal stuff.
Pretty
After all
average.
that, she's in the New Avengers series, which is very good from that time period, actually. I really like New Avengers. I have a few of those trade paperbacks. And yeah, just kind of does superhero stuff and still works with S.H.I.E.L.D. She at some point actually becomes Silk's handler when Silk begins working for S.H.I.E.L.D. And as I'd mentioned before, she starts working with Nadia Van Dyne in the Genius in Action research labs. So again, there's a bunch of stuff there that I think is just terrible and uninteresting, and I don't want to talk about it. But my kind of mental construct of Mockingbird mostly comes from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Unstoppable Wasp comic book. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., she's one of the more like combat capable members of the team. She's just, yeah, I don't know. That's a weird show to talk about. I'm assuming most people haven't really watched it. And I respect that. I get it. I'm not going to try and convince anybody. But yeah, she has around there for a good while as one of the more kind of like senior, competent members of the team, with some of the more junior folks who are still learning the ropes and their way around things. And I really liked her there. And then the thing that really sold me on the character was this point where she shows up in the Unstoppable Wasp, which we have an image to throw up for people who are watching this in the video format.
Yes, if you're watching this on video, you are now going to see the image that Leith is talking about.
Yeah, and you can pause it and read through it. I'm not going to read everything in detail. But it's basically Nadia is the new Wasp, right? And she's this remarkably positive person. This comic series is great. And she meets Mockingbird and tells her like what an inspiration she is to her and how she respects her for being the scientist who goes on all these adventures and things. And Mockingbird is very touched by this. And the funny line that I really liked was like, people don't remember that I'm a scientist. They just remember that I used to be married to Hawkeye and I hit things with sticks. I love this series. It's fantastic. Again, Unstoppable Wasp is like a shot of joy directly into your heart. But this is what really kind of cemented Mockingbird to me as like this, I don't know, like cool, sympathetic character. She's in this series, like she does get to do some ass kicking, but she gets to be more independent. She's separated from all the dumb, stupid crap that happened in the last, 40 years of comic books. She just gets to be a cool, badass, competent superhero, and it's awesome. And this is what made me want to talk about her so much. I really like the character from what I've seen her in, which is after the 80s, we'll say. But yeah, she's just a really cool character. I like her a lot, and I'm really happy we're talking about her card today.
Well, thank you for the history lesson, Lethis. If we got anything wrong, listeners, if Lethis got anything wrong, let him know. WhinninghamPodcast@gmail.com.
If anything's wrong, it's all his fault.
Drop a comment. Yeah, if anything's wrong, it's Lethis' fault. That's why we outsourced that to him.
100%. Yeah,
the research
that's why we had him
department
do that.
did a little bit there, but it was mostly Lethis. Okay.
Our big research team, congrats to them.
Thanks for
The
feeding me
research
all the
department
info.
is really killing it lately, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Good job, guys.
they've been expanding. They got a lot more people on the job, and they're getting the work done. They're doing it. That's why we pay them the big bucks.
Very proud of them.
I love it. So, thank you for that. We now are going to move to talking about the actual card of the day. So, I'm going to throw that up on the screen, and then, since I haven't heard a whole lot from the Red King today, would you mind reading the card for us today, sir?
I can do this. Absolutely.
You can do this all day.
Mockingbird is a three cost basic ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 consequential for each, 3 health, has the keywords shield and spy, and has the response after Mockingbird enters play, stun an enemy. Can be spent for a physical resource, and as the flavor text, you call that science?
You call that science. Okay. So this card was introduced in the core set. This is a core set card. It was reprinted
OG.
in 2 other packs. So I'm going to ask my co-hosts here, do you all know what packs it was reprinted in? There are 2 of them.
Hawkeye?
Negative.
Nope,
There's
Wrong.
a different Mockingbird.
There is Mockingbird printed in Hawkeye.
but that's
so-
not a reprint,
It's not a reprint.
and that's what he asked.
That was not the question.
It was.
Think
It was
if
very
you
much the
remember, they
question.
said,
What was the question?
Lazy Titans, say something, and whatever you say is right. And I believe that's what I did. So
That is what I said. All right, there's 2 packs. You guys know what they are?
Good try. I don't. I think there's 4 copies of her in the core set, right? Like she's in every
Yes.
precon.
Yes. And then there are 2
So I'm
packs that came with her.
right.
I'm
but I
gonna-
never needed that because
I'm gonna
she's so
I'm gonna
many
guess
more.
Miles, and
Is she in packs of S.H.I.E.L.D. identities?
Yes, both of them have a S.H.I.E.L.D. identity.
Okay, so there's only like
so it's Black Widow.
4. It's Black
It's not
Widow.
Hawkeye.
Amazingly,
Ironheart's not S.H.I.E.L.D.
that is both wrong. No, it was reprinted in Captain America and War Machine. I'm sorry you had to listen to
War
that, listeners.
Machine.
That was far more pain than I meant to inflict on any of you. But, so, we read the card, and it was reprinted, like I said, in Captain America and War Machine. So, let's get right into it. I think most people, if you've played the game at all, know this card. This was, I got into the game right at the core set. This card was ubiquitous for a long time. So I'm sure if you have the core set or you played early on in the game, you have a pretty good sense of Mockingbird. But let's talk about the art first. This is art from a comic. It came from Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 4 from 2016. And what do you guys think about this art?
This suit is still kind of unfamiliar to me, but I do like it. It's just kind of a cool action shot of her basically like flying, gliding into a situation. It's kind of basic, but I like it for being an ally. It doesn't, how do I put it? The allies are kind of weird for art on the cards because it's mostly just you want to show that character, not like some specific situation or them doing a specific thing. So just kind of having a generic action shot, I think, is good for characters. And this one gives you a pretty good, clean shot of her and what she does. And I feel like the art kind of, it's a little abstract, of course, but I feel like the art kind of goes along with the effect of the card, at least.
Yeah. Lazy Titan, what do you think?
I like it. I think it's cool. It's got the kind of classic, from what I understand, the classic Mockingbird colors. Pretty standard shield looking suit. She's got the cool wings, which feels like she should be able to fly because they look like they're either like rocket boosters or lasers, but gliding is, I guess. She's got the, not a critique on the art, but she's got like the kind of Robin mask of like doesn't really cover your face, but your eyes are covered, which doesn't seem
Covers
very
more than
useful
Robin,
for
I
a
think.
secret identity. Yeah, Robin's is like truly doesn't even cover the bridge of his nose.
It's like eyeshadow.
But it's
Yeah.
like this, you can't see her nose, but I just
Yeah.
feel like it's not super helpful.
She might
But
not have
other
one.
than that, it's cool. I like the glowing wings. It glows good. It looks nice though. The glowing effect is done well.
It
I will
looks
say, like,
good.
seeing the image like blown up like this, the wings do look more like jet boosters to Lazy Titan's point. Like, I always just thought of it as like different hues to like the metal of the wings before.
I always
Well,
thought they were jet boosters or like
you
lasers,
guys
basically. Where she's
are
flying
in luck because
energy
I actually
stuff.
have the comic frame that I can share here. So if you're on YouTube, you are getting just a treat today. We are sharing image after image. So this is from the actual comic. Those look like flying. Like there are mountains behind her, which are not visible in the card, but she's clearly like flying, and they're like, those are like boosters of some kind on her wings. because you
It
can
says
tell
at the
they go
bottom,
out.
not as good as Sam Wilson's wings, but they'll get the job done. Special upgrade from Parker Industries. I feel like
Field
that seems like they're
liaison.
flying.
Definitely seems like flying. So I think, yeah. So that is the comic frame. I just thought you guys might appreciate seeing that.
I
Let's
appreciated it.
go
like it.
back to the card. Now, not critiquing her actual powers, her suit I think is a little weird. Like the M on the belt buckle is kind of awkward. But like also the thing that she's wearing around her neck, which looks kind of like a cloak, also looks kind of like hard. Like the yellow part looks like it's like metal. So it doesn't look super comfortable.
Or
But,
very flexible.
Overall, it's just kind of, it's a lady in some kind of a super suit. And she's got a gun maybe or strapped to her leg there. Gun holster. Thigh holster
Got her
there.
little sticks.
Might be.
Yeah, it's
She's got
just
her batons on her back.
I don't know.
Her belt doesn't seem to be attached to a belt. It just kind of looks like she's got pouches stuck to her waist.
They're kind of like
there's no
floating.
belt.
Yeah. It's fine. I don't want to
That's
critique the utility of her suit. Like, I'm not a superhero. So, it's fine.
Maybe it works for her. I don't know.
If you were, you'd have a fancy
Maybe
belt.
it works. I
Or
think
no belt. You'd have a fancy pseudo belt.
that's true. But she's got some kind of utility belt. Okay, let's go to theme then and talk about the theme of this card. Like, does all of it come together to make a, kind of a unified theme? Last episode, we talked about Taunt, which we said, and I said, is one of the most thematic cards I think that I could think of. Everything worked together. Do we feel the same way here?
No. As much as I love Mockingbird, no. Like, stun is kind of an odd choice for what she would do. And it's not like if it was like an action of some kind, like, or like when she entered play, you could spend a mental resource to do a thing, like balance wise, that's a whole other thing. I'm not getting into that, but that would at least feel a little bit more like the science elements of what she does. But I don't know why she stuns.
Wait. I got to back up the art a second. I just realized, does she have like guns sticking off her back?
No, it's
Those are
her
her
batons.
batons.
Okay,
It's her
so that must be a
sticks.
gun in her leg then.
Yes.
Probably.
Or a
She doesn't
taser.
have
or
more
some kind.
batons, right? Okay.
I mean, she might
Sorry.
have a third
She-
baton. You might.
I just realized
sometimes
she
you
Usually
want a
has
baton.
two.
Sword things behind her, but I thought maybe they were
She
like
has
guns.
two batons that extend and can join together to form a staff.
Okay. I thought she was just
Classic
going War Machine style with the little thing on her back there, but I guess not.
Parker
Okay, so-
famously making War Machine suits.
Yeah, attaboy. Upgrade.
Maybe.
I
Tony
think
Stark did it.
the stun, I don't know. I don't know anything about the character, obviously. I thought the flavor text was really strange and didn't make a ton of sense. It's kind of like a perplexing thing to put on a card. You call that science, which I didn't make any sense to me. Now I learned she's something of a scientist, so okay. But the stun thing, I don't know if that's thematic.
Like the card
Yeah.
doesn't convey that at
No,
all.
it just feels like
I-
it could be
I
anybody,
disagree.
right?
I feel like
Go on, then.
at least I didn't know anything about Mockingbird until 10 minutes ago when Lethus ran me through all that information, which I'm sure was wrong. But I didn't realize she had powers. I assumed she was just like a regular lady. But the
thought
point
so,
still
too.
stands even if she has like a super soldier serum. I kind of just assumed like S.H.I.E.L.D. agents aren't superheroes. They're just kind of like operatives, right?
True.
Generally. So I
True.
would kind of the way I imagine Mockingbird being like flavored is like Spider-Man is fighting somebody. He's like beating up Rhino, and then Mockingbird just kind of flies in, kicks him in the head, and flies away. And he's like, "What?" And that stuns him. And then Spider-Man keeps fighting because she can't 1v1 the Rhino. Maybe
That's
she can.
The one
but
thing, like looking at
Spider-Man
the art,
can.
she kind of like ambushes them, I guess, when she comes
That's
into
what
play, and that's what the
I
stun's
kind of
for.
figured she was more of a Black Widow kind of character, more of like another one of
Mhm.
those like Shield assassins who just like drop in, get you, and leave. And she just kind of comes in, kicks somebody in the head. They're like stunned, and then she just leaves because she can fly.
Well,
That's
why
what
can't
I
she
just
always
always
like
read
be
for
kicking
this.
someone in the head.
Maybe she can because she's got the super soul serum. But from my original understanding was that she was just a lady, and a regular lady cannot fight the Rhino and win.
Look,
so
Sam
I
Wilson
figured she
can
just came and kicked her
1v1 Hulk. Then she
We
can
don't get
1v1 Rhino.
no. We don't gotta get We don't gotta get into this. We don't gotta get into this.
Sorry, spoilers
Boomguy's
for anyone who
having
hasn't
some
seen
feelings
Captain
We do
America
not.
4.
We do not got spoilers. Those that hasn't seen the Captain America 4, where the Hulk fight is in the trailer. Come on,
Yeah.
y'all.
Apologies to everyone who hasn't seen the promotional poster for Captain
any
America 4.
promotional poster for this movie. But yeah, we
Mercy.
don't got to talk about the fact that
Believe this.
the
Have you
Hulk
seen the movie?
suddenly can bleed.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday.
He can bleed
Okay.
now. The Hulk has never been injured before in his entire existence.
Captain
At least not in
America
the movies. And suddenly you
Sam
can just stab
Wilson.
him with a knife and he dies.
1v1'd Red Hulk. Just went toe to toe.
In this movie, he has vibranium wings.
There's so
Okay.
many spoilers here. I'm so sorry, everybody.
He fights
those are
Red
not
Hulk and has
spoilers.
vibranium.
He
Everyone
fights
has
Hulk.
vibranium, and of course
That
he
is
fights Red
in
Hulk. This is
The trailer.
in the trailer.
Oh my
He
god.
has
not
the
giving
little
away
purple,
anything that's
like,
already been given away.
nanotech Black Panther thing that every Wakandan thing does in the trailer. This is all you could all know this from the trailer.
This is all
So
trailer stuff.
I try to avoid this. Like, I'll watch enough of a trailer or like a thing to know if I'm interested in it, and then I don't want to see any more. So I didn't see most of the trailers for Brave New World. I saw like the
The trailer
first
gives
one,
away
and I was
most
like,
of
I'm
the
just not
movie.
gonna watch anymore.
I
very
had
little.
the opposite reaction. The trailer does not give away a lot of the movie. I feel
What?
like it just gives away the climax of the movie, and then the rest of it just kind of happens.
My man,
God,
My
I'm
man.
so sorry, everybody.
it is a
The other
political
guy is not
thriller.
in the trailer.
It is a political thriller that gives away the big twist at the end in the trailer. The whole time you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what's wrong with Harrison Ford? What's wrong with Harrison Ford? Oh, if you saw the trailer, you know he's the Red Hulk.
I mean,
Anyway,
yes. that
let's
was
get
not
back on
great.
track with Mockingbird.
So
It's out
sorry.
of control. Well, Lazy Sign's out here making
whatever.
crazy claims, like she can't 1v1 Rhino. And I'm like, nah. If
Well,
Sam
she maybe
can
can.
1v1 Hulk. Okay.
Yeah, this is not in the same
I'll
universe.
take it.
That's irrelevant. You're just trying to gripe. She maybe can. Before, when I originally believed she was just a person,
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not good. But maybe with the super soldier serum and wings, she's just like Cap 2.
She's just that dude.
She can maybe handle it. But she just
Yeah.
flies in and kicks somebody in the head.
She's her.
And that's the stun. Anyway,
She's her.
tangent aside, that's the flavor I've always imagined for
Okay.
why she stuns people.
That's
Or she does some kind of shield thing, throws a flashbang at you or something.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Some
I always thought, because there is another Mockingbird, spoilers to anyone who hasn't got the Rise of Red Skull expansion yet, there's another Mockingbird in the game, and she has to do with defending Hawkeye and, like, taking damage. So I always assumed the stun was thematic, because she can, like, prevent a bunch of damage, and this one does a stun, so I kind of thought she had some kind of defensive prowess or powers like that, right? That's what I thought. That's why the stun made sense to me. But now you're telling me, Lethus, it makes no sense. She's a scientist.
I mean,
I
she
mean,
uses
she-
blunted weapons, right?
She
she's
is
not
a
trying to
shield
kill you.
agent. Like, she is a competent fighter. And, like, I think the best answer I can come up with is that it's basically her ambushing the target. And so, like, it just kind of, she comes out of nowhere and catches them off guard. And that is what's
With
causing
her
the stun.
enormous glowy wings. You can't see her coming. White suit.
And her bright
glowy
white
wings.
suit.
Yeah.
Out of the shadows in a bright
Reflective
white suit with fire wings.
golden accents, fire wings.
Like Lion
flying-
Wade.
Yeah,
It's like
Moon
Robin.
Knight standing on his own cape.
Yeah. Yeah, who's also wearing bright white. So, leave this.
Yeah,
Let me ask you
it's
this.
The color of stealth.
Since we're already off track, let's just lean into it. How disappointed are you that she is not a playable character in the Shield Wave?
Pretty disappointed.
And
I mean,
let me
I
just
do
say-
like Silk.
We have not seen the last two revealed. So, she could, they
She
could
may
go fast
be.
one here.
At this
But
point,
we're pretty
But
sure at
most
this
people
point.
are pretty certain what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure.
So when they did the silhouettes, like, I had thought what turned out to be Cindy Moon Silk might be Mockingbird.
Yeah.
I do like Silk. I'm not disappointed to see her, but I am kind of sad to not see Mockingbird. I just think she'd be really cool.
We never
Famously
know.
not
Maybe
Shield
she,
traded in the Shield Wave.
maybe she
but,
put on a lot of muscle and lost an
Yeah.
arm in one of those pictures, and we don't know. It's maybe that's the interpretation of the character they're going for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't.
She gained like 100 pounds of muscle and lost her left arm.
It is weird to have like this is like the second time I think they've done this. So they did this with Web Warriors too, where like they had a Web Warriors wave, and then it's like Iron Hearts. It's like okay, I guess kind of because Miles, I guess there's some overlap. And like Silk did work with S.H.I.E.L.D, but she's not S.H.I.E.L.D traded, and like there's definitely other characters they could have used. I'm not sure how they landed on the array of heroes they did.
Sure, he's not S.H.I.E.L.D traded either,
Web
right?
Warriors are ever getting a cycle?
I don't think Shuri is. What was that, Titan?
Do you think Web Warriors are ever going to get a cycle, or are they just going to get shoehorned into whatever needs an extra pack?
The studio has said that going forward, they are going to have more disparate cycles, so they aren't going to be as like thematically consistent throughout a cycle. It's not going to get like X-Men. You're going to get these like
So maybe
you
we'll
get one of
never
these
get a
and one of
cycle.
these
That
and
could
one of
be
these.
fine.
Yeah.
But also, like, if they were, because now they have the option of revisiting heroes they've already printed, so they could do like a mix of things. So if they want to do something like Miles Morales and like Spider-Man 2099, they could do that. Like, I'd expect there will be another Web Warriors wave of some kind, but probably like Boomguy saying a little more scattershot and
I'm a big fan of that.
trading.
I think for people who
I like the
aren't
mix up
super
more.
excited about a whole pack of stuff, you know, like if you're not super excited about the X-Men, like why would you tune into this wave at all, right? I think it's nice to have different things mixed in there.
It's got ups and downs though, right? Because if you are a huge X-Men fan and you're like, oh, Wolverine, like I can't wait for Cyclops, and then they just don't come up with Cyclops, you'd be a little disappointed. If the first wave came out and they're like, oh my god, Cyclops and Kitty Pryde, like I'm looking for Jean Grey and Cyclops, and they just like didn't release Wolverine, you'd be a little.
I think
I would say the only one
like
that
after.
wouldn't. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're go.
I was gonna say the only one that wouldn't make sense is if they like didn't release the Fantastic Four together, right?
There
like
you
that.
Go. News gonna
that
say
one
it every
would be
time.
weird.
That would be wrong. That would be.
You just got like Mr. Fantastic in a random wave. Be like, what? Maybe he's the last Shadow, right? And he can make himself look like anything. So maybe the last one is just Reed Richards, make himself look like Winter Soldier.
That would be a fun episode to record if that was the case.
We are way off.
We are
the
miles
Boomguy
off
is
track.
steering us wrong today. We talked about the theme of this card. I think it's a little uneven. Let's move on to the power of this card. How strong is Mockingbird? I think we kind of gave it away at the beginning.
It's an interesting case.
Okay, good.
At least from my opinion, Mockingbird was one of the greats, and was like in every deck for a lot of the early game.
She's in the Hall of
Really,
Fame.
I think the shift was Standard 2.
Why is that?
As soon as Steady became a rule, I have never played her since. And I think I've seen her a lot less in decks since, which is instead of you play Mockingbird, you pay 3 costs for an ally who can attack or thwart for 1, twice if you want to, block, and then stop the enemy from getting an attack. It's attack or thwart for 1, stun the enemy once, which doesn't do anything, and then block. So it feels like kind of a 3-cost do nothing. It's not actually do nothing because it's setting up for future turn, but it feels a lot worse when she only does half of her original effect. I think we've seen her kind of crater in play since then.
I agree with you. I think it was that Mad Titan Shadow wave that brought in a couple of stalwart villains, and I think for me that was kind of when I stopped seeing a lot of Mockingbird, not just in my own decks, but in other people's decks. Now that could also be because at that point we just had a lot greater number of allies, so there's just more options. Like early on there weren't a ton of great allies, and she was one of the GOATs, and she was along with Nick Fury probably in every single deck. You know, there was not a lot of ways to get a stun, and she was just ubiquitous, like we said up front. So I think she was a ton. I do not see a lot of Mockingbird anymore, I will say, in really any decks on Marvel CDB or in decks that I use. She's rarely included. Lethus, what say you?
I still play her. She's not
for
in like
thematic
every
reasons
deck.
or mechanic.
No, like power. I think mechanically she's actually kind of a perfect card. I think she's very well balanced for what she does and what her cost is for being a basic ally, which is a huge like point here.
Yes.
Like basic allies, especially as the card pool's expanded so much, basic allies are a really weird proposition. Like, you honestly, I don't play that many of them very often because you just have a lot more aspect choices to pick now, aside from things like Professor X and Nick Fury, which are just astoundingly powerful,
or any of the web
and
warriors
flexible.
or
It's been a
guardians.
minute since we've gotten basic. Maybe it's just because the X-Men way, but I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of basic allies that aren't trait in some way. Traded, like obviously, like Professor X isn't X-Men locked, but he's X-Men encouraged.
A little, yeah.
So I feel like it's been a minute since we've gotten an ally that is just an ally, no synergy, just like Mockingbird or Nick Fury. Like maybe I'm just missing something, but
There's been a lot more that have some trait influence.
trait lock of some kind, or only their effect only does things like Elixir or Marrow or all these allies that we've been coming out.
Even Ironheart was a long time
Mockingbird
ago.
I agree. Mockingbird is good, and she's very, very fair, extremely, extremely fair. I think Mockingbird didn't necessarily get worse. Mockingbird is still a very fair card, very good, extreme, like, good rate. It's just that stunning got worse.
A little.
The effect of stunning got less valuable and more available, so it just kind of, she just got basically the victim of inflation.
Well, and the fact there are just so many other options now.
There's so many things that stun now, and it's not as good as it used to be, and so
I just think
she just
even without
loses
the
value.
stun,
But Mockingbird herself, still good.
like stun aside, there's just better cards now. Like, I think this is a very good card. I think, like you guys said, it is appropriately costed. It has a good effect. Hit points, everything is good. I think there's better options, right? Like, if you're looking in basics, why, and this is to some degree, like, maybe you call it power creep or whatever, but like, why wouldn't you just run Ironheart, which costs one less, draws you a card, has a 1/1, and also blocks one attack. Like, it's one fewer attack, maybe. Okay, but you draw a card instead and save yourself resources. Like,
Professor
better.
X?
if you're going to play a 3-cost
3,
ally, like,
4,
why just
confuses
play
the
Professor
villain?
X, right? Like,
That's
I just think that's what's happened. She's been power scaled
got power
out
creeped.
of, like, the top tier.
I'd agree with that, but that's what, again, like, I think she's well balanced. I don't think Professor X is well balanced. I think he's overtuned.
Yes.
Ironheart is just not expensive enough for what she does. She's too easy to throw in, just do anything. There's a cost associated with Mockingbird. It's a very reasonable cost. The 3 HP for, like, the 1 thwart 1 attack is obviously not impressive on its own, but with the stun and the block you can get later, it's actually a very reasonable rate. And that's what a basic ally should be. Like, a basic ally should not be the most powerful, impressive card or even ally in your deck. Like, I think Mockingbird is right where an ally should be.
Totally
and
agree.
There's been a few that have been too high up.
Mockingbird was designed back when allies were good, back when allies were fair. Back in my day when they built allies right. This is
when
one
you
of
still
the
played them.
Yes,
Listen,
this is
kids.
a time I used to play allies. Kids. This is one of those allies that, like we've talked about multiple times with everybody, is extremely fair. Never broken, extremely fair, super balanced, very well designed. But like has just gotten power crept because allies have just become the best card type. They were always really good.
Yeah.
But they're just so good now that it's like it's almost ridiculous to even play events at this point.
I mean, I think
they're just
this
so
is-
strong.
this is one of the cards they can point to when people tell you that there's no power creep in this game. I think that is just false. I think they have controlled it very well in Marvel Champions. I think there is not a ton, like a lot of the stuff from the core set still holds up. And some of the stuff from the core set was just cracked from day one, like Make the Call. But I feel
We
like
just look at,
Mockingbird
Armor
is
versus
a
Mockingbird,
fair
though.
card, and it suffers because there have just been better cards
It's fair.
released, like just straight up.
Because it's not busted.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah.
It's one of the fair cards that gets kind of thrown to the wayside because it's fair. It's too honest for modern Marvel champions.
I mean, I remember
Yeah, but
not that long ago when we had a reveal card and it was Kid Omega, and Kid Omega is absolutely cracked,
Ridiculous,
right?
Yeah.
That's what allies are now. I mean, it's
Kid
an
Omega
aspect ally,
is an aspect
okay,
card. To be fair,
but it's a 2-cost aspect card in an ally in
Double
the
the
aspect that
stats.
wants to play a bunch of allies with amazing stats and doesn't enter the play effect. Like it,
a good
that's what allies
effect.
are, you know? So
Allies are just the showstopper of everything all the time. That's why I don't play
Yeah.
them, because they're stupid. They're not as well
I
designed
wouldn't go
anymore.
that far. Okay,
I don't.
so
I
then
would. I hate them.
Yeah,
how
I
fun
think
is
they
this
should be
card?
removed from the game.
surprising all of us.
How fun is Mockingbird?
I actually think she's pretty fun. Like having a, and not that there aren't other effects in the game that do this. I think playing a card that stuns, which like buys you time, and can do something right away because she can attack with Thwart. It's only for one, but still you do something. Like the number of times I pinged Tough off with Mockingbird is very high, and you have that flexibility of being able to defend later. Like she lets you do a lot of stuff. Like she's preventative, she does something now, she's flexible for later. Like I think she's actually really fun. Like not the most like crazy effect in the world, of course, but still like a fun card. Like the same kind of feeling you get from doing things like a Miles web shot, like being able to like knock something out and then stun something else feels really good. Whenever you get to do two things at once, it feels good. So yeah, I think stunning and then just like hitting something is nice, or being able to like thwart for an aspect that's bad at it.
I mean, in a 2-player game, this is great, right? You drop it, you stun the villain, you thwart her attack for one, and then you eat the attack for the other person. Like, you've just saved an entire round, basically, of the villain turn, and maybe pinged a tough card or thwarted one or whatever. You did something. In a solo game, it gets even crazier, right? You stun, wart, ready up, thwart again, then block. You haven't wasted any hit points. Like that, it just is really good, and I think fairly costed, right? At 2, this becomes insane. At 4, it's probably not played very often, if ever.
No. This is
So,
a very good card.
I think the card is just really good. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say.
It's a fun card.
I do wish that I could play this in Hawkeye, because he needs more of that defense. But
yeah,
really, I can't find any fault with this card. It is fun. I think the power is fair. Yeah, I mean, it feels fun to stun the villain and then still be able to do stuff, right? You just know you're taken care of. Nothing's going to surprise you. Good card. It goes well with the one we talked about last episode, which is Taunt. Drop Mockingbird, then play Taunt. Love it.
Because they can't block for you, but if the villain's stunned...
Villain's stunned doesn't matter. You just draw 3 cards. So, yeah, I think overall, there are more fun cards, generally. I mean, I think events, generally, for me, are just more fun than allies and just, like, have that impact that's more fun. But,
I think events are generally
good.
the most fun cards.
Is this a card that speaks to a certain playstyle? You know, like the Spike, Timmy, Johnny thing? Does this speak to someone, or does this work for any kind of player?
I feel like this is the kind of card that speaks to the least people and the most. It's extremely versatile. It doesn't do anything especially well. It doesn't do anything especially bad. It's just an efficient ally. So maybe that's like for the spikes out there, because it's just efficiency. But it's not efficient. It's just good. It's not like a very good rate for the effect. It's just a good rate for the effect. It's in the like what you're getting for free isn't crazy.
Card.
It's just solid.
I'd say
it fits with anybody though, right? Like this is just one of those that doesn't really eat up a deck spot. It's like, oh, you got spot for one more ally, throw a Mockingbird in. Like you can't go wrong, right? You don't have to have any synergy with her. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be playing S.H.I.E.L.D. or anything. It's like, oh, that's just the same thing with Professor X and Nick Fury, right? I feel like she falls into that bucket. It's like, oh, I got an extra slot. But Nick Fury always fits.
I feel like it's not a spike card though, because it's not optimal.
It's not good enough.
Right? If I have an extra slot, it's not going in there. It's going to be Professor X.
I would disagree.
Or Ironheart.
Well, not with that.
Or Ironheart. Like if I have just a spare ally slot, this is a fantasy land where I am a
I can
lesser
see that.
man. But if I have a spare slot in my deck for an ally, I'm not picking Mockingbird ever. No matter what aspect I'm playing, I can think of a better ally in every single aspect off the top of my head. Like she's a victim of the power creep of the game.
It is a thing though where like I find, I'm sure other people do this too. Like I find myself playing especially Professor X less frequently because he just feels too much and he's all over the place. And I feel like every X-Men deck is going to have him. And like Fury, I also feel a little less inclined to play sometimes just because
There we
he's
go.
so everywhere.
There we go.
Again, Mockingbird feels fair. And also like
I agree.
she fills in he fills a role that lets decks work. Like if you have a deck that needs time to set up, Mockingbird gives you that, like more than most allies do because of the stun and the block, and still getting to do stuff. Like she's just very flexible in like filling in holes in your game plan. Like, yeah, I think she counts as a spike card. She's just not overpowered, but like
allies
I get your point.
do feel good. They feel too good. Maybe we should play fewer of them.
let
me get my pendulum out. My
We're gonna have
watch.
to talk about like we're gonna have to have an
Allies,
episode where we talk
they are
about deck
getting
building
too
tendencies.
good. They're getting you feel bad for
Four
playing
sets.
them. They're not fun.
I think we can transition to final thoughts at this point. I think we have said a lot about Mockingbird. Lazy Titan, I'm going to let you go first tonight.
All right.
Final thoughts time. Remember,
Final
5
thoughts on
is true
Mockingbird.
neutral, not failing, right in the
Beat me
middle.
to it.
That's how we score.
True neutral is a 5.
Yes,
I
sir.
am going to score Mockingbird a 6.5. Mockingbird, no, I'll give her a 7 for respect. Mockingbird was one of the classics, one of the OGs, one of the GOATs. It's just a good rate. You're never mad about it. It's always very good. But there came a point in the game where it became stunning was very popular, and there was a point in this game for all you old heads out there. You may remember there was a point in this game where people were worried about how good stunning was. There was Captain America decks that could stun you forever, and people were like, "Oh my God, this is crazy!" And then they came out with the Hood and Standard 2, and then that's now we're here. But back in the
Now
day,
here we
stunning
are.
was a problem. It was problematic how good it was, and so Mockingbird was really powerful. That effect became less valuable. She became less valuable. Allies got cheaper. She's just kind of falling behind the curve. The art is good. The theme, I think, is fun. I've always imagined the theme of an ambush kind of working together. But, and she fits personally into my own Marvel Champions journey of Mockingbird was kind of an auto-include in every deck. And then as soon as Mockingbird got outclassed, is right about when I would have sworn my vow of silence, of no allies. If any of you have seen Thor 4, where the God Butcher vows to kill all gods, that's me, but for allies. He's me for real. I said, no more. I won't do
Lazy
this anymore.
Titan was the real villain all along.
No. I'm the hero. You people are the villains. You people keep playing these cards and making them better.
You people?
I don't need to go on an ally rant. But allies are stupid. They're not fun. Don't play them. But this is a cool card.
Nice restraint.
Okay, you turned that around at the end there. I'll go next and let Lethis go last because you have a soft spot for Mockingbird. I think final thoughts time. Boomguy's going to give this a 6.5. I think she is fairly costed. I think for a basic ally, this is almost everything you could want. Being able to stop 2 activations is really powerful, right? The stun and the block. She was nerfed a bit from Steady and Stalwart. She's no longer like the complete safety blanket she used to be. With that said, though, I think she still is a safety blanket. She could potentially get a buff with the new Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. release, which releases, depending on where you live in the world, very soon. I think the art is solid but unspectacular. I think the theme doesn't do a ton for me. The flavor text is kind of confusing and like nonsensical if you don't know anything about the character. It's like a weird call out to science that the picture has nothing to do with science, the other effects have nothing to do with science. It's weird. So the theme doesn't completely go
Doesn't
all
even have
together
a
for
science
me.
resource.
It's not a science resource either. And then I think for me, just the amount of times I saw Mockingbird in my own decks and other decks early in the game's life cycle might have worn me out a little bit. There's a little bit of nostalgia at this point, I think. We've kind of maybe come full circle on it, where now I see Mockingbird and I'm like, oh, hey, Mockingbird, It's like, oh, Ground Stomp. Oh, yeah, I remember the days. But she's better than Ground Stomp. So 6.5 for me. It's a solid card for sure. It's not one I play a ton, but definitely still has a place in the game. And it's a shame that she was a little power crept out for me. So that's my final thoughts. Lethus, you're up.
I will give Mockingbird an 8 out of 10. So I realize
Okay.
there are more powerful allies available. I think those are generally overpowered. Again, I think Mockingbird is actually like a perfectly balanced card. I think it's very reasonable all around. I never feel like I'm cheating by playing her. It feels like she does a reasonable effect for the cost. I do have a soft spot for the character. I'm mostly docking points for theme. Like, I think the effects and everything, like her game impact, is all fine. I do kind of wish she had a mental resource, just because that would be a little thematically better. But yeah, like the stud, like I don't know, the theme of the card doesn't really do a whole lot to reinforce the character, or like kind of like, you know, again, I like the story that the card tells, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So that's where most of my point docking is coming from, is the theme failure. Like you said, the flavor text doesn't really make any sense given the card. It's if you know it, if you know the character's a scientist, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
8 out of 10
that's
for me.
where a trait might have helped. Could have given her a genius trait. I don't know.
Mhm.
Would that be crazy? I don't know if she's a genius. Could have given her a scientist trait. I don't know. Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, I love the card, just wish it was a little more thematic.
Well, listeners, that kind of wraps us up with Mockingbird today, the first of 2 episodes for Women's History Month. The next one will be Dazzler, the Justice Ally, so we look forward to that next episode. If you liked what you heard, as always, please do take 30 seconds and leave 5 stars and a written review, a few nice words on whatever platform you're listening on. That would be really great. If you're watching on YouTube and you generally find yourself watching this kind of content, you might as well just subscribe, because then you can watch more of it and it helps us out. Drop a like, drop a comment, all that stuff helps too. So thanks for all the support we get anyway, but you know, if you're not subscribed or you haven't reviewed yet, just please take a few seconds. It really does help us out. And that is going to do it for tonight. The next episode of Winning Hand, as I said, will be episode 60 with Dazzler. So we will look forward to another momentous episode where we are approaching retirement age with the Winning Hand. Going to hit 60 and start collecting Social Security, I think, at episode 62. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for joining in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Don't play allies, y'all.
Tisk, tisk.
This man.